Hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Georgie Man, and I'm your friendly neighborhood anime and manga fan. I love all things anime and all things manga, and I'm here today to talk about My Dress Up Darling chapter 104. So, what did I think about this week's chapter? Honestly, I'm speechless about this week's chapter because I think Fukuda definitely gave us a emotional journey in this week's chapter where we got to pretty much just be completely broken by the end of it. Whether it was the Gojo flashback that we get into, as well as, Marin's inner conflict and, her revelation of self-discovery of what she's been doing this whole time in the story. Even Nanchan gets a little bit of a flashback as well. Like, pretty much this whole chapter was just very heartbreaking in all aspects. And I think that, it was very emotional when it came down to it. And I think Fukuda definitely executed it well. And I think this was a fantastic chapter, which we'll get into in a minute. Now, before I go any further with this week's chapter, I just want to give you guys a quick reminder to make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you guys can be up to date with all my Dress Up Darling content, as well as all my anime and manga content that I'll be providing in this channel. It really helps out a lot, and I would really appreciate it if you guys could subscribe to my YouTube channel. So if you guys could, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Now, with all that out of the way, let's get into this week's chapter. So this week's chapter starts off in pretty much where we left off exactly last time, which is pretty much Gojo being, meeting up with Nan's family. I'm just going to refer to her as Nan, not Nanchan, because, it's just easier, and that's her name also. So as he's being introduced once again to the family, we find out that they used to be neighbors, which is something that we all kind of speculated as well, because we knew they were childhood friends. Most likely they were neighbors as well, and that seems to be correct because we see that pretty much they talk about it. And I will say right now, last chapter I was very conflicted on how I felt about Nanchan being introduced in the story once again. I thought it was very jarring. I thought it was like, where are we gonna go with this? And I think that Fukuda did an excellent job at pretty much once again like what she's usually good at, and that's pretty much making all of us completely shocked at what's gonna happen, because none of us expected to, at least for myself, I know I can speak for myself, I was not expected to be this emotionally attached to Nan in this chapter, specifically in the fact that she has grown. And that's the one thing in this story thus far, is that it's been a decade since they last met, and I definitely see the outcome on that, because we see that Nan, she doesn't talk to Gojo in this chapter at all. Even when they get introduced, Nan's mom talks a lot to Gojo, and it's very cute. She's very awesome, she's very friendly, and she's just she's very quiet. She is. And we see that pretty much throughout the whole time, she has this cold look. And, for all of us in the last chapter, we thought that she might be like, oh, she's going to be stuck up, she's going to be mean. But I'm glad that Fukuda didn't take that route. Instead, she gave us a more complex character. And what I mean by that is because as the story continues, we see that pretty much Nan's mom, she mentions to Gojo, like, hey, are you still doing the Hina dolls? He's like, yeah, I'm still doing it. And we see pretty much that, at one point she's like, oh, isn't that really hard? Like, you gotta give it your best to become a pro, right? And he's like, yeah, I gotta do like 3 hours a day. And then she's like, oh, it must be very like exhausting. And he's like, well, to be honest, I haven't really been I haven't been too much keeping track of that as of lately. And then when Gojo says that, Marin starts thinking like, oh my god, am I the reason? Like, am I, she starts talking about it. She starts thinking about everything that Gojo told her last chapter, which was his dream about his grandpa, being able to, surpass his grandpa in his craftsmanship and building great Hina dolls. And at this moment in time is something that I think I myself, as many others, we speculated was going to happen, which is, Marin starts blaming herself for, Gojo's inability to achieve his dream, or the dream that he has, set in stone at the moment. And that was very heart-wrenching to see Marin's realization with that, because what happens is once she does once everything starts clicking with her, like, oh my god, it's all my fault. If he wasn't making all these cosplays, he'll be able to focus on Hina dolls much more faster, and being a deterrent to his dream. And what happens is eventually, one of the Gojo's cousins, she's like, hey, Marin, would you like to stay for dinner? And you see Marin just like put her, hat down, and she barely can hold herself. She's like, it's okay, I'm leaving, I have to go to work. And you see that she disappears, and it'll come back at the end of the chapter. But as the chapter continues, we see pretty much Nan and her mom go back to their apartment. They start chit-chatting, and one thing to note is that Nan's mom's like, oh, that girl was really pretty, huh? It's like, yeah, she's really pretty. Like, that's what or I think she's the mom says, oh wow, that girl, like, do you think that's Gojo's girlfriend? Is like, I think, yeah, she's really pretty or something. And so that goes throw out the window the whole theory of like, and the speculation. In I saw a lot of the comments in my last previous chapter review. I saw a lot of people, saying like, is she gonna be a love interest? And I don't think so at all. I think that this, week's chapter really determined that idea, because even she thinks like, oh, that's Gojo's girlfriend, she's pretty. I think what this chapter did is really solidify what Non's, involvement in the story is gonna go forward, which is because as the story I can't even speak. So what I mean by that is because as the chapter continues, you see Non kind of like thinking wants to get up Gojo, and we see her just like, very cold, like very emotionally like let down. She looks very like depressed, very sad, and the reason is because she remembers everything from back in the day, and we have this whole flashback of Non, which was very, very well deserved and very much needed for us as the audience to really connect with her, because she, like I said, she showed up 100 chapters later, and now we're supposed to like care for her. And I think Fukuda did a good job at explaining her motivation and why she had that conflict with Gojo as a kid. And what we find out is that pretty much after Gojo's parents' death, he was very like, he was a shut-in. He was very, obviously surprised by the whole situation. It took a lot of mental and emotional damage on him, and it was very much so like a loner type. He didn't want to go outside. He was like, he just wanted to stay in his room. And what happens is, Nanchan had been, she was the neighbor, and she wanted to just play with Gojo, and she was doing her best to make him like lift up and smile. None of it, did anything. Like, she really gave it her all though. Like, you see her like every day, she'll try to hang out with Gojo. As like that persistent neighborhood kid that wants to hang out with you and play with you. She was trying her hardest to make sure that Gojo was safe, or at least she wanted to lift up his spirits. And what happens is, the big revelation is, the reason she really freaked out about the Hina dolls wasn't about boys shouldn't do that. It's more in the sense that, I think, from at least from my perspective, it comes more from a regard of her realizing like, hey, I've been trying all this time to lift you up, and because she tells like, hey, let's go watch this TV show, and we see that Gojo's like, no, it's okay, I want to stay here. It's like, why? And it's like, I want to keep looking at these Hina dolls, like they make me happy. And then that's when she freaks out. We've seen the iconic scene up to this point, and now that we know the full context, is more like, she's starting to realize like, I tried so hard to make you smile, I tried so hard to be friendly, lift up your spirits, and what an inanimate object like a toy, a doll toy, made you feel like that. It gave you confidence to come out. Like, she threw a fit. I mean, she's a child, it makes sense. And honestly, it's not, I can't blame her. I mean, she's a child at the end of the day. We're adults, so it's easier for us to in retrospect just like point the finger at her as like, you suck. But in reality, listen guys, we were all kids at one point. I'm sure we were doing something as foolish as this, being dumb. And I do like how Non's like reflecting on it, and you see her in the chapter, she really feels down about the whole situation. And another person that feels really down, that we catch up towards the end of the chapter in the last panel, is Marin. And you just see her, we cut back to her perspective, and we see her pretty much at her house, and she's in the floor just sobbing. And man, this hurt. Like, this really, really hurt. I was just like, no, Marin. And one thing to note is that I'm gonna see a lot of people say like, oh, why doesn't Gojo and Marin talk things out and all this? Like, listen guys, we get to have the privilege of, in retrospect, knowing like, okay, they like each other, and we know everything, we have all the information. They themselves, they don't. Like, Marin and Gojo don't have the information that we do, so therefore they can't approach things like we would, like in retrospect, as as the third eye, like the third person point of view. So I think that we got to give them some liberty in thinking about like, okay, maybe they're acting foolish. I mean, they're teenagers at the end of the day. Gojo, like, I know I'm gonna see a lot of people like, you made Marin cry, like, screw you. And you know what, he didn't mean to. Like, at the end of the day, it's all great writing from Fukuda. And I think that this week's chapter really emphasized that, especially with that emotional heartbreaking panel. So mad props to Fukuda, and I can't wait to see what the new chapter brings in 2 weeks from now, because as a new update, we're going to get a new chapter in 2 weeks from now. So no monthly release next time, so stay tuned for that. Now, with all that being said, what did you guys think about this week's chapter? Did you guys love it? Did you guys hate it? Did you guys thought it was alright? What did you guys thought? Let me know in the comment section down below. Also, thank you so much for sticking all the way to the end of the video. I really appreciate it. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more My Dress Up Darling, as well as more anime and manga content in the near future. But yeah, with all that being said, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Bye bye.